Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Climbing Sycamores podcast, where we look at today's topics to get a better view of Christianity. I'm Annie Beege, and I'm joined by my friends Ben Sadler and Matt Harbach. We're rolling. Happy New Year.
2024.
That's right. New Year's resolutions, anybody? I know in past podcasts I've said, resolutions are dumb and whatever. But this year, for some reason, I feel like this was a good point. And I think the argument for it, which again, we've talked about probably a year ago, was after the holidays, you kind of have a moment to kind of breathe and detox and and just say,
see how much money you wasted on the holidays.
Right, and all that. So I am doing a complete overhaul. The word of the year is discipline.
Nice.
That's it.
Whoa, scary.
Great.
And so do you want to share some of the things that you're going for?
I am really going to be diving into more musical endeavors and trying to craft my instruments better.
Nice.
Just cutting out, I don't want to buy any unnecessary clothing. I don't, I'm doing dry January again.
I don't know if I like dry Annie. I'm just kidding.
I know. Well, that's right. I know. That's been the argument.
Really means business.
My friends are like, well, Annie, talk to us on February 1st. But, and then also just, people, just giving people,
Cutting them out.
Cutting loose.
Cut them off.
Cutting them loose.
Ben, we're first. Say your last
I wonder
words.
if I'm on the short list.
We're
All
getting
right.
cut off.
No, I just, in general, I think, and I think this is, I want to hear about what resolutions you guys have too, but I think it's a good segue into what we want to talk about today is friendships, boundaries.
Yes.
Jesus had friends that did him dirty. How was that addressed? And it's just so, what do you do if you're in kind of a toxic friendship and you're the only one providing wisdom and you don't want to let the person go. And so anyway, I think that's kind of factors into
Really
today's subject. But what are your resolutions,
Matt?
I didn't make any
or
formal
goals,
resolutions. I should. It's a good excuse because I never actually totally achieve them. But even if you just get 25% of the way there, that's better than nothing.
Right?
I've noticed that too. I look back on just writing things down, and I don't always do a good job of putting together a system that this is going to happen by this date. But even the ones that I've written down, I usually accomplish somehow. Oh my goodness, just writing this down, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
I have had a goal to write a book for so long, and I've written smaller books, and I think I'm going to do it this year. So
Okay.
There's two books I really want to write, and
With all that extra free time
know.
between work, school, family, you just got 12 extra hours a week that
Exactly.
you're just scrolling through TikTok.
Yeah.
You're like, sure,
cut out TikTok, and I'll be able to write the book. So I really want to do that, and it's two different ideas. So hopefully I can clarify what that is and just get after writing, and then I always want to keep growing health-wise. I just when you feel healthy, So I have a regimen that I'm just keeping up with that, and then I think I told Bill this too. I want to just keep on getting better at preaching. I had a professor back in seminary. He said, Ben, you could phone it in and you would be fine. Don't phone it in. And I feel
what does that mean? What does it mean by-
just you could go up there and talk, and people would be like, okay,
I see.
You could phone it in. But he's like, don't do that. And so the last few times I've preached, I've really tried to be very intentional, and I feel like I just feel better about it, and I feel like it's helping people. So become a better preacher. I think for me also investing in friendship. There's a couple of friends that I'm going skiing with a good friend, Todd. I'm really excited about that. So investing the financial investment, time investment in some of these relationships that I really do have just been incredible people in my life. And so that's something for me.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's my list. My wife is so funny. She's like, same resolution I make every year, to not make any resolutions. Then I won't let myself down. So this is a really big growth for you, Annie, to put something out there. I
Overhaul,
like that.
man.
I love it.
To suggest that
it.
you might need to change something about yourself. This is
Pretty much everything.
As she drinks her huge water bottle. Was that one of them? Drink a lot of water?
Yep. Well, I don't know. It's just health in general.
Yeah, that's great.
Detox.
It feels good. Yeah, it's hard. I think the other thing for me is you always know what you need to go back to, and you have to assume there's going to be bumps in the road. And so when a bump in the road, you have a bad day, you have a bad couple days, to just say, all right, just get back on track.
Right.
I know what it feels like to feel healthy, to work hard, to intentionalize these relationships, my faith, all those things. I had a couple of bad days. I don't need to blow up my life.
It doesn't ruin the whole year or the rest
Exactly.
of your life, right? To have a couple of bad days here and there.
That was something, there was a author that I like to listen to, Donald Miller, and he talked about your life being a story. And in any good story, good book, movie, whatever, there's going to be opposition. And so you have to almost plan for the opposition. That's going to happen. And you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have whatever, pain and suffering. Assume that's going to happen so that when it happens, you have a plan to kind of keep bouncing back. So I thought that was really good. Yeah. Cool. Was it Matt or Annie came up with today's topic?
It's kind of both.
Well, let's hear it.
Yeah, Matt, you can go ahead.
Crystallize
yours
it
kinda
for us.
Started.
So I think most of us, if it's not us, it's someone we know, have a friendship where you feel like, this person has a lot of just poisonous behaviors and maybe they're not always honest, or they'll like cancel plans, or they are just really condescending, whatever their thing is. And you're kind of looking at it from the outside, and you can see like this person's life maybe has a lot of problems, or they had a really challenging upbringing. So you're trying to be sympathetic to that, and you're saying to yourself, I am like the only person that is giving this person good advice, or I feel like I'm like a point of stability in this person's very chaotic life, but also it is very challenging to remain friends with this person, and they feel like they keep taking and taking and taking, and it's becoming exhausting. And so then the question is like, okay, as a Christian, I want to give, I want to be there for them and be generous with my time and my energy and be that point of stability, because they don't have many.
Yeah.
At the same time, like it's exhausting, it's wearing me down. So as Christians, where do we kind of set that? I see the book you have there. Where do we draw that boundary?
Yeah, I think Henry Cloud he's a Christian psychologist. He's written the most about this, or at least the most that I know. And he's written two books that I refer to a lot are Boundaries and Necessary Endings. So I have a couple points that I want to draw out of there. So like your big question is, where do you draw a line with maybe a toxic or kind of a leech kind of friendship? Was there somebody that you had in mind too, or some ideas?
It's kind of like that, maybe on a less, not quite the same, but conceptually the same, where like it's one-sided, where like if you're the one who's always, reaching out, or you're the one who's not necessarily like the stability, like in this case where you're giving good advice and you're the rock when the person needs you there. But if you're investing more in the friendship in general than the other person, like what does that say? And when do you say, like, no, and I'm thinking about myself and also like somebody close to me. And just like, when do you just say like, no, these are not my people. Like I need to go, I need to find like my people.
Right.
So it's kind of intertwined, but
I think,
different.
well, first of all, I think we talked about this, like friendship is usually around a common cause or common desire, or, a common hobby or something like that. You're friends because you both like music. You're friends because you do this thing together, or you go out and enjoy this thing together. And I think sometimes when you stop having that same passion, or maybe that person, they change what they like, or you change, like you don't have that anymore, I think that then it feels strained, like you're just doing this to like, because you always got together. And I think that can happen. But I think especially like in the toxic situation, Henry Cloud talks about, he's got this whole thing on like the 10 laws of boundaries. And one of them is, it's a biblical picture, is reaping and sowing. That when you put seed in the ground, you're going to get a harvest, and you're going to get something out of that. What can happen is, if you're always coming to the rescue of somebody, you're kind of interrupting the normal part of life, where like they made a bad decision again, and you come in there and rescue. You kind of intervene for them all the time, and they don't have that feedback of like, I keep making dumb decisions and it's everybody else who has to rescue me. No, I have to learn that what you reap is what you sow, or what you sow is what you reap. That if you put this into the world and you do this is what's going to come back to you. And interrupting that for them is not love. Now, somebody might fall on hard times, but if this is a pattern, you got to let them feel the natural consequences of their actions, or else they're going to blame you. Like, well, why didn't you help me this time? Or why aren't you coming to my rescue this time? And they put their problems onto you, and then they'll never learn. And that's not loving. That's one of the hardest things, I think, especially like in addictive relationships. If somebody's an addict, like you've had these roles where they're the addict and I'm the caregiver. So they have to stay the addict and I have to stay the caregiver. And we have these really hard and fast rules and roles. But when you stop being the caregiver, I'm not going to cover up for you anymore. You have to get help. I'm going to draw a line in the sand, draw a boundary. They don't like that. And sometimes it goes the other way. When the person's like, I want to get clean, the caregiver's like, ironically, like, no, this is my role. What am I without? Right. What am I going to do without this? So I don't know if that helps at all, but is there another angle that you were thinking of, or, when is that line, or when does a person become toxic? Is that kind of the question?
Yeah, but kind of both of those things, I guess. I guess to me, there's like a level where you kind of feel like, because I am Christian, because I'm saved,
yes,
I have a high, I should be holding myself to a higher standard than I would hold other people.
Yeah.
Like if we have the law, we know what Jesus says,
right.
They don't.
Right.
Okay, we need to kind of be the ones going above and beyond. And so that's kind of where I feel like I get a little confused.
I think the question is what I'm doing helping them, or is it enabling them? So yes, we ought to love and have a higher standard of love, but sometimes love is not coming to their rescue. Like, I'll be there for you and encourage you, but I can't do this for you. I can't be in your place. You have to take some responsibility, and I will be there to support you. I will get you the necessary tools. But if they don't use those tools, or they don't make those changes, and they keep going into the back, they have to feel some pain. A person will not change until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And so you have to allow them to feel some of that. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you talk to good counselors or people who have, do interventions, that they have the willpower and the wisdom to say, we're not going to rescue. We're going to let you hit rock bottom. We're going to let you feel this because we love you. Because if you don't feel it right now, you're just going to keep on growing a greater level of tolerance of your crap that you're putting yourself in. So I think the big question is like, what is love in this? You still want to love as a Christian, obviously. But sometimes God himself allows us to feel the consequences of our actions, and that's love, so that we would stop doing it. Unfortunately, these patterns can be so ingrained that a person doesn't change. And sometimes you have to have an ultimatum, like, I can't keep being your friend if you're going to keep on doing this. And it's because I love you. I don't want you to keep on doing this. So I think you want to be patient and long-suffering, and you want to be there for them. But when you start feeling like, I'm feeling the consequences for their actions, and my life is miserable because they're keep on making bad, like, that's when it goes too far. There's no boundary. Now their bad behavior is spilling over into your life, So I think that can be helpful. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's just important to kind of like give yourself that threshold and say like, okay, like once it's reached this point, then I know that I'm not going to help them, or that I'm going to draw kind of a line with them.
I think it once it becomes a pattern, like this is who you are. This is not. And so you need to feel the pain. We've talked enough about it. I've said enough about it, and it's not changing anything. And And so sometimes you have to let them feel it. And I think we've talked enough, and you keep acting in this pattern, and I care about you too much so we're not talking about this anymore. We're going to let you. Now we're going to talk about the consequences. When you do this, is what's going to happen, and I can't rescue you, but I'll be there for you and encourage you. But you're going to have to face some responsibility. I knew somebody years ago. A mother loved her daughter, of course, but this woman got I told the story before, got all caught up in the sex trade, and her mother and she's got all caught up in drugs and everything. And so this woman, when she ran out of money and ran out of place to stay, she would say to her mother, "You don't love me. You hate me. If you loved me, you would pay for you give me some money and you pay for my hotel room." And she did, because she just wanted to hear. The mother was so filled with guilt that her daughter turned out in this way and things like that. That's what happened. And so, and as much as I tried to tell the mother, that's not love. You can't support her lifestyle this, leading her into more problems. She was so blinded by the fact that she wanted to feel loved and wanted her daughter to say, "I love you." And her daughter knew, and addicts know how to do this. They know how to hit you exactly in the jugular to make you feel the most pain, so you'll do what they want. And you have to be strong enough to say, "I love you too much to support bad behavior." So, but yeah, especially then they'll throw the Christian stuff at. If you were really a Christian, then you would help. You say you're a Christian, but you're judging me, or you don't care for me, and what kind of Christian are you? And then you have to be strong enough to say, I'm not going to support this. Sometimes, I've tried to do that when you this is maybe not the exact same thing, but when somebody asks for money, it's like, all right, you're hungry? Let's go through the McDonald's drive-thru and I'll pay for whatever you want, or let's go to Pick and Save and I'll fill up your grocery cart. But I'm not just going to give you money and then if they say, "Oh no, just give me the money. That's what I want." I'm sorry, I'm not going to enable bad behavior. I don't know where that's going, and so yeah, I think that's just an example of those kinds of boundaries and what you can do. It's actually helpful. The hard part is we all need friends too. I think if there's too many people that maybe we see as toxic, or we can have a need of "Oh no, I can't lose that friend because that's also a support system, and we have so many good memories." And so I think that can be hard too, is when you're cutting people off that have been a big part of your life. So, what do you think, Annie? What's your situation? Maybe is a little bit different, or
it's not like that. I think it's just when do you essentially just say okay, this is just I'm not getting anything out of this, or this isn't a friendship, or why am I always the one, and at what point do you just say, because like I said, when we look at Jesus, he had friends, they did him dirty, and he still obviously, gave his life for them and all of us. So at what point do you just say, I'm not giving anymore. I'm not going to be the one who's reaching out, and I'm not going to be, if it's not being reciprocated.
Yep. I do think it starts with talking, and when the talking isn't working, then you take action.
Okay.
And I think that's what, same thing with Jesus. He did. He would confront the disciples when they're acting like idiots and arguing over who's the greatest, and then for other people, some of the religious leaders or Pharisees, he would talk to them for a while, and he would go eat at their house, like he ate at Simon's house. But then after a while, he stopped talking. He's like, "I'm not going to answer your questions anymore. These are not coming from genuine. You don't really care about what I'm going to say afterwards. So I'm going to start allowing some consequences, and I'm going to say things without regard for you." And So when you really read what the Bible actually says, you don't have kind of a passive Jesus that, just let everybody walk all over him, where he would speak and he would confront, and when people would change, he would keep embracing them and keep welcoming in. when they would do him dirty or manipulate him or try to change him or control him, he finally stopped asking the questions, and he would ask them questions. Why do you really want to know? Do you really want to know my answer to that one? Why don't I ask you some questions? And I thought that's so we just have to look at how he actually was and how he actually confronted people. And I think that TV series, The Chosen, is doing a pretty good job of that. We're showing Jesus saying hard things to people and being okay with some people being mad at him. Jesus said, be careful if everybody likes you. What kind of, you're just this malleable little, you're not standing for anything. Be careful if everybody likes you. You're probably just being used by everybody. Sometimes you have to stand up for some things, and some people aren't going to like that. Yeah. And for their own good, you have to stand up for some things. So, yeah, I also think there's limitations on how many close friends you can have, right? Don't you think? Mm-hmm. And so maybe some of those people who aren't investing the same amount, you're like, oh, that's a low dose friend. Like we'll see each other around, but I'm not going to be the only one revealing the most intimate parts of the things I'm working through or, care about, because you're not.
Just keep it at arm's length.
Yeah.
Not that you have to cut off per se, but you just kind of keep it arm's length, keep it cordial.
Yeah, keep it cordial, especially if there's no like direct inciting incident. I think I would think if you have too many of the conversations, like you're not putting in the effort, well, then they might put in the effort a little bit, but is that a long-term strategy? Is that really, is it necessary to force this friendship? I think that's been something too over the years, having lived in a few different places, that like you can't be close friends with everybody, especially when you've moved to different places. Where there was a time where this person was really helpful in my life, and hopefully I was helpful in their life, and now we get Christmas cards from them and send them texts on their birthday or things like that. But I'm not going to be able to keep up that same level of intimacy with everybody. And now God puts new people in your life, right? And I think about our staff here and the friendships we have right now, and I'm so thankful for these people who are right in front of me. So, and sometimes that means, these past relationships are a little bit different. You still try to keep in contact, but you can't keep that up. Yeah. And I don't think you have to feel bad for that. We've had some people who do want to hold on to that, hold on to a past life or hold on to a past situation. You can't.
Right.
You've moved on, and you've grown, they've grown, you've changed, they've changed. And so.
All right, here's a question sort of in the same vein. Do you ever feel like it's your responsibility? So you, before we hit record, you told us a story that you recently met somebody who is really curious about, is not someone who goes to church, is not Christian, but is really curious about learning more, kind of. I mean, do you feel like it is your responsibility to like not bother them, but like, send them a message here and there, like, oh, if you ever wanted to talk more, if you ever wanted to go to church, like try to kind of insert yourself into their life just a little bit more to kind of give them that door?
Why do you ask?
Because I feel that way sometimes. Mm-hmm. Like if I meet somebody and we talk for a little bit and it's like, well, someone told me a while ago, and this goes along with what you said, that like, like sometimes God will put people in your lives for a specific time, for a specific reason. And the context that was given to me in was like, like maybe you're really, really close with this person now, but you're not always going to be that close, like what you were just saying.
Yeah.
But if you start thinking really intentionally about all of these sort of seemingly random chances, and you're like, well, maybe this person who seems like they really are confused and need a lot of help, like maybe it was a good thing I met them, and maybe I can help them.
Right. Yeah. Remember a couple of years ago, we went to a Dare to Lead conference, and the main speaker was Kokel or whatever, and he talked about, almost like an assembly line, that you're just one person on that assembly line in somebody's walk with Jesus, and you want to put a rock in their shoe that they think about. So I do think, well, even Emily and I was talking to her this morning, I was like, should I send our website or YouTube page to look at some of the videos? And we decided no. I think the level that you can talk about something so intimate as your faith is in direct proportion to how big of a bridge of trust you have, because it's such an intimate part of your life. And I think that's why cold calls or door knocking can be so abrasive, is because you want to like jump down their throat talking about something so intimate.
And out of context.
Like
you don't know this person at all.
Yeah, you don't know their story. You don't any of that. So,
but in this case, like he was kind of asking you.
Right. Yes. And so I think going as far as that person lets you. It's been so crazy because lately, I think just having the long game approach. There was somebody that I was talking to 20 years ago, and I thought we were never going to talk about it again, about faith, because it seemed like it was going nowhere. They asked to not talk about it anymore. I mean, it wasn't 20. I think it was 15 anyways. And recently, they've wanted to re-engage in this conversation, and we're sending articles back and forth. I've met with this person, and it's like, I think if you just take the long game and you play that, I think that's really how mission work goes. If somebody comes to has like this dramatic conversion, it was probably because there were so many conversations and so many things leading up to that conversation that you had. It's almost never that somebody overnight goes from, I hate Christianity, I have no interest in it, to, oh, you gave me this sound argument, now I'm also a Christian. Mm-hmm. And so if that is the case, then you don't feel the pressure to, it's just not going to happen. So why force that? Why think you can overhaul their whole belief system? And, or, if they want to keep talking, hopefully you've built enough trust and you're open to it. And so we're still kind of exchanging texts with this other person. We'll see what happens. But I'm very tentative to kind of fire hose that stuff. I do, maybe in behind their question, I don't feel a responsibility or I have to do this. I think I used to. Mm-hmm. I think when I started being a Christian, I thought this is all on me. Mm-hmm. A good Christian will have like a board of check marks of how many people they've converted, and now I just have, it seems like you realize that the more you talk to these people, God did this for them. And then God had this conversation with them. And then God turned on that song on the radio for them. And then this TV program came up in their life. And then they bumped into that person. And you just happen to be part of that whole thing. And so it's not all on you. And you're not the savior. And I feel less pressure to do that now. I don't know if that would be different if like I was a missionary in a foreign country and I had to show a statistical report of how many people are coming to our church. But right now I don't feel that pressure. I still love them and still pray about them. I have a little list of people I'm praying for, but I don't feel the responsibility to try to force this on somebody. Yeah. It's just not natural.
I heard a story of one of my friend's parents, but her mom was saying that years ago, like their family never went to church or anything like that. And she met this woman and they talked for a little bit, and then this woman invited her to church. And she was like, oh, I might come sometime. And that Sunday, she did not go to church, and then didn't go to church. And then, maybe they talked a little bit, and the woman said like, oh, if you ever want to come, you should come. She's like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll go, right? And months go by.
Yeah.
And one day she's like, okay, like I'm going to finally give this a shot. And she drove into the church parking lot, and her friend is outside waiting for her. And like she had this moment, she was like, she has been there every Sunday out the door waiting for me so we could walk in together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's a really cool story. But then it kind of gets you to like, okay, how far do you go,
sure,
on behalf of other people?
It's a dance, I think, where you want to, if you don't want to act like this isn't real to you and they don't know that you're a Christian, like you're embarrassed of it. But you also, I think, are sensitive to, I'm not going to there's not going to be a sound. Maybe it's this thing. I felt like there was a time where if I just had the right argument, I could argue them into the faith. And now I don't feel that anymore. I just feel like, all right, I'm going to care for you and keep that door open. And hopefully this person knows they can always come. But I think that happens a lot where I remember a woman in my first congregation, she told me this story, and I never knew this, but she had this thought, I have to go to church. And so for a few weeks, she would drive by our church on Sunday morning. And then for a few times, she would drive in the parking lot. And then she would drive in the parking lot, go up to the front door, and then go back. And then I think she made like in the door and then left. And then one time she got all the way in and sat down. And she's like, God just kept on telling me to come in there. And I finally, yes, you don't know what the person's story is that got them there. Yeah. So I often think about that account in the book of Acts where Philip is kind of like almost teleported by the Ethiopian eunuch who's coming to Jerusalem for some reason for Passover. He maybe was a proselyte or had some kind of maybe Jewish understanding, but he was an Ethiopian eunuch who was in the court of the queen. And he's reading Isaiah 53, and Philip just happens to say, do you know what you're reading? He said, no, I can't understand this. And that's the whole section that talks about Jesus, the Messiah, will be pierced for our transgressions and crushed for our iniquities, and the punishment that brings us peace upon him. And so Philip had this opportunity to just talk to him and explain what that is. He baptized him, and then basically the whole conversation was over. So who knows what happened with that Ethiopian? Who knows what happened to everyone in the palace when he got back home? And I think I think God hides a lot of the results from us so that we don't get arrogant about it, where we are just one little person in this incredible story. Yeah. So, I think there was a time where maybe it was out of fear that we weren't growing as a church, where every sermon kind of ended, now go tell somebody about this. Go be a missionary. And it's like such a daunting thing that you have to force somebody to come into church, be a church salesman or something. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Anything else on your mind?
I'm good, I think.
All right. Muy bien.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
If you'd like to get a hold of us here at the Climbing Sycamores podcast, feel free to email bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. bsadler@victoryofthelamb.com. If you like today's intro music, it's been brought to you by Andrew Lynch's song, My Name, Hello.